She was just the hospital custodian, pushing her mop through the sterile white halls at dawn when the whispers started. It was the tattoo on her wrist, something small, a simple cobra coiled in black ink. But in the break room, it became a subject of cruel laughter. "Who gets a snake tattoo working in janitorial?" they mocked, clueless. They had no idea it wasn't just any snake, but the insignia of SEAL Team 6, the deadly viper assigned only to the most elite. They didn't know she was Master Chief Sarah Raven Mitchell, the woman who fought in the shadows for over a decade, who saved 23 lives 5 years ago in an operation so secret it wasn't even spoken of outside the highest ranks of the Pentagon. And they certainly didn't expect a 4-star general to kneel before her that very afternoon. The day started like any other. Sarah, 38 years old now, with long brown hair pulled tight into a practical bun, wearing plain hospital scrubs and the scuffed sneakers of someone who's been on her feet since 4 a.m., maneuvered her wheelchair down the corridors. Yes, wheelchair. After that ambush in Iraq, shrapnel tore through her legs and prosthetics now lived beneath her pants, hidden beneath much more than just fabric. But what no one in the hospital saw was the steel beneath the calm blue eyes, the mind honed by years of clandestine warfare, the grit that didn't break under fire or humiliation. Every morning she cleaned these floors, wiping away the traces of the sick, the suffering, the quiet tears of families waiting for news. Invisible to most, ignored by almost all, except for the few who noticed the way she carried herself despite her injuries, the way her hands moved with military precision even when holding a mop. Yet even then, the jokes came. Early that day, 3 new nurses arrived, fresh out of training. They circled around during her break, snickering at the old World War II bomber tattoo clumsily done on her ankle, visible just above her sneakers. One of them, a tall guy with a smirk almost permanent on his face, leaned in close, trapping her in the cramped staff room. "Hey, wheelchair lady, you sure you weren't flying those planes yourself?" he jeered, loud enough for others to hear. The coffee spilled hot across her lap, an accident. Maybe. Or maybe a deliberate shove. She didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't move beyond a subtle tightening of her jaw. The humiliation was her daily companion. The invisible veteran, the forgotten warrior turned janitor, incapacitated and overlooked. No one knew the full story. Not the hospital director who passed her by every morning. Not the patients who saw only a tired woman in scrubs. Not the staff laughing in corners. But then, the young soldier in the corner of the cafeteria caught sight of the cobra tattoo on her wrist, peeking from beneath her sleeve as she wiped the tables. The soldier froze, eyes wide. The insignia was unmistakable. It was the emblem of Ember 2, a classified unit known only to the highest echelons of the Navy SEAL community and the Department of Defense itself. He discreetly reached for his phone and made a call that would turn the whole hospital upside down. Minutes later, the atmosphere changed. The 3 men who had teased her were suddenly quiet, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the windows. Outside, 8 black SUVs pulled up, the tires crunching gravel, bringing with them a dozen Navy SEALs in full tactical gear, calm, silent, exquisitely trained. The hospital's automatic doors whooshed open, and the team moved inside with a purpose that stopped everyone in the hallways. The general arrived just after, stepping from a sleek black car, immaculately dressed, exuding authority. His face went pale when he saw her, the cobra tattoo, the quiet dignity despite the wheelchair, the grounded presence of someone who was anything but ordinary janitor. He approached slowly, then knelt before her in a gesture so profound every head turned. "Master Chief Mitchell," he said, voice steady but reverent, "I didn't know you were here. I didn't know at all." It was a moment frozen in time. The same woman who had been mocked for years, ignored for a decade, was honored by one of the highest-ranking officers in the military, a living legend in his own right, in front of an audience that had no choice but to listen. But this moment, as powerful as it was only the beginning. Sarah's story, the missions she'd taken part in, the sacrifices she made, the secrets she kept, had been buried, hidden beneath her humble work and wounded body. The hospital corridors echoed with whispers now, no longer of mockery but of awe, and as she straightened, propelled herself forward slowly with her prosthetics beneath the scrub pants, the weight of unspoken battles lifted just a little. One day, she had stepped into a hospital janitor's uniform to heal. They had thought she was just cleaning floors. But Sarah Raven Mitchell was cleaning the slate of forgetfulness. And soon, her true war would begin again, not on the front lines overseas but right here, demanding respect, justice, and the honor she was owed. The general's words hung in the sterile air, reverberating through the corridor as every head turned toward the woman they had mocked only moments before. Master Chief Sarah Raven Mitchell's deep blue eyes met his without a hint of bitterness, only a quiet strength earned through years of sacrifice in places no one here could imagine. The nurses who had jeered now stood frozen, the weight of their ignorance sinking in like lead. The cafeteria fell silent, the murmur of voices replaced by an almost reverent stillness. Sarah's body, though restrained by prosthetic legs concealed beneath her scrub pants, seemed to carry the weight of 100 untold stories, battles fought in shadows that no one understood. The young soldier who had quietly called in reinforcements stood at attention, his face pale but resolute, knowing that this moment was more than recognition. It was overdue justice. The general motioned for the officers accompanying him to lower their weapons, signaling a shift from combat readiness to respect. "Master Chief Mitchell," he said, voice firm yet respectful, "you don't know how many of us have searched for you since that day in the Shalikot Valley. 5 years ago, your team was hit by insurgents during Operation Nightfall. While we lost contact, you held your position alone for nearly 6 hours, coordinating air support and evacuating 23 wounded soldiers under continuous fire." The room held its breath as he continued. Nobody knew because. The mission was classified and you asked that it remain so, never seeking glory. But today, you deserve more than silence. Sarah's jaw tightened ever so slightly, but she said nothing. Her hands rested on her lap, the calluses from years of tactical training hidden under the skin that had cleaned endless hospital floors. Around her wrist, the Cobra tattoo gleamed faintly under the fluorescent light, the insignia of Ember 2, an elite SEAL unit tasked with the deadliest operations worldwide. She was not just a veteran, she was a ghost in the military's darkest nights, someone whose courage had saved lives in silence. And today, the silence was broken. The young nurses who had mocked her moments before shifted their weight uncomfortably. The tallest one, who had pushed the coffee cup into her lap with a cruel smirk, now avoided her gaze. The hospital director arrived, breathless and flushed with embarrassment, muttering a formal apology. "Master Chief Mitchell, this institution failed to honor your service. I promise that changes today." The general nodded solemnly, then addressed the crowd. "You will apologize to Master Chief Mitchell, not just now but every time you see her, because what you mocked was a ghost, and she let you live to understand." Suddenly, 8 Navy SEAL team members stood up from their seats and moved around Sarah, surrounding her with an unspoken shield of respect. Each man and woman in full tactical gear, faces hardened by similar battles, yet softened by the reverence they displayed toward their leader. The hospital staff, once indifferent or hostile, watched in awe as these warriors, the real protectors of the nation, stood by the janitor who had carried more weight than any of them realized. The general stepped back, wiping a rare tear from his eye and saluting her, breaking all protocol as if she were the highest-ranking officer present. A news crew that had been waiting discreetly outside moved in, capturing the moment so the world could finally witness Master Chief Raven Mitchell, warrior, protector, survivor. The lead reporter asked softly, "Master Chief, why did you choose to live quietly as a janitor when your story could inspire the nation?" Sarah's eyes held a mixture of humility and grit as she replied, "After the war, I was broken, physically and mentally. This hospital was my place to heal, not just my body but the unseen wounds. I cleaned floors so others could focus on their fight to live. But today, I want those who serve in silence to know their sacrifices won't be forgotten." The crowd erupted in applause, some staff wiping tears, others standing rigid with newfound respect. The nurses who had once mocked her approached slowly. The tall one stepped forward first, voice trembling, "Master Chief, I am so sorry. We had no idea. You saved lives we'll never even hear about. Please forgive our ignorance." Sarah nodded, her face softening for the first time. "It's never too late to learn respect. That's what matters." The general then turned to the hospital security team and ordered, "This place is under our protection now. Anyone who disrespects any veteran in this hospital, especially one like Master Chief Mitchell, will face consequences beyond this building." Heads nodded grimly, understanding that the hospital corridors would no longer echo with cruelty but with honor. Over the next few days, newspapers and social media exploded with Sarah's story. The janitor whose quiet resilience hid the heart of a seal, the woman who refused to let her disability define her, the soldier who risked everything so others could live. Invitations poured in from veteran organizations, military academies, and national leaders eager to celebrate her bravery. Yet, Sarah remained grounded, wanting the focus to stay on the invisible veterans, the people who come home broken and vanish into obscurity but still carry the flame of service. One evening, in a small ceremony at the hospital, the four-star general pinned a commemorative medal on Sarah's chest, officially recognizing her valor and service. As the applause thundered, she smiled, a real, full smile that seemed to light up the room. "This isn't just for me," she said, voice steady. "This is for every soldier who's been overlooked, every veteran who came home and was unseen. We are still here. We deserve to be seen." The hospital director announced new policies: mandatory military cultural sensitivity training for all staff, veteran support programs, and accessible workspaces. Sarah herself took part in workshops, sharing her story to educate and inspire. The nurses who had mocked her became some of her strongest allies, advocating for change. The young soldier who recognized the tattoo moved up the ranks, ensuring that no other veteran would go unnoticed on his watch. What started as a moment of humiliation became a catalyst for transformation, not just for Sarah, but for the entire institution. Months later, as Sarah returned to her humble janitor duties, she was no longer invisible. Staff greeted her with nods of respect, patients smiled when she passed, and the once mocking whispers turned into stories shared quietly. In the quiet moments alone, she still felt the sting of the past, but it was tempered now by the knowledge that her true war had been won. Not the battles fought with guns and grenades, but the battle to reclaim honor, to rise from the ashes of indifference into the light of recognition. At the end of each day, as the hospital lights dimmed and the corridors emptied, Sarah would wheel herself to a window overlooking the city skyline. There she found peace, not as a janitor, not as a broken veteran, but as Master Chief Raven Mitchell, a soldier whose scars told stories that could no longer be hidden. The snake tattoo on her wrist glistened softly, a quiet reminder of a vow kept, a mission fulfilled, and a legacy reclaimed. She cleaned toilets for 10 years, yes. But one day, with one knee bowed before her, a four-star general reminded the world that dignity, courage, and honor don't fade with a uniform. They live in the heart of those who serve, on the battlefield and beyond, unseen until the moment comes to rise. And when that moment arrives, even the highest ranks kneel in respect.